What about food? Are there certain foods that are more likely to be contaminated with mold, and are there certain foods that can help to dry out mold?
Yeah, I've talked to the lab about this. What we assume is 90% of the mold toxin that people have is from inhalation. Because think about it, you're breathing an average of 20,000 times a day, whereas you're eating what, maybe 3 to 5 times a day. So the rate of consumption of mold via breathing is much higher than your rate of consumption of mold via eating or drinking. But yeah, moldy grains. This is why a lot of people feel better on a grain-free diet, because grains are typically moldy, because it's all dependent upon how are they dried? When you're cutting that rice out of the field, rice basically is grown in water. If you ever look at these rice fields, how they're grown, you're hoping and assuming that that rice was properly dried quick enough before mycotoxins formed. Peanuts, you're hoping that the peanuts were properly contained. You're hoping your coffee beans were perfectly treated to where there's no mold growing on those. And you can do testing of your food samples, but we would assume that it's 10% or less of the total body burden of mold. So I would say in general, if you're real sick from mold, I would recommend going grain free, at least temporarily. Maybe you could add in some organic white rice if you feel good with it. There are certain companies that market their coffee as being mycotoxin free, where they've tested it for mold. It's probably true. I would assume that conventional brands may have an issue if they're doing this on such a huge scale. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I don't know. Do you want the little mom and pop small roaster, or do you want the big corporation? Who's better at this? I really don't know the answer to that. But I would say that pastured meats is your safe foundational food to stick with, because if you're doing conventional meats, think about most of the corn in this country is genetically modified. So if you're getting a conventional burger for lunch, if that cow was fed moldy corn or moldy grain, those mycotoxins are in the meat. And now you're eating that meat. So that's another reason to support regenerative farming, support pasture-raised animals, because those grass-fed animals, they're not eating moldy grass, but conventional animals are eating moldy grain. And then fruits. I mean, everyone's seen that. You buy the $6 pack of organic strawberries and there's one in there and you're like, crap. So I think that in general, though, that's a small piece of your puzzle, and I don't want you to be paranoid about it.